14, 15, 16, prime, 18, prime, isosceles, scalene,
In all my years of teaching,
lateral.
I have never seen a mind like the one your daughter has.
They're offering you full scholarship. All you have to do is get there.
These little girls that
Then common sense says at least one of the two terms has to be zeroed to the quadratics into a form. Taking that side of the equation equals 1, 2, done that is pretty straightforward from there.
Move like that.
Catherine, we all gonna end up unemployed.
NASA had a big problem and three unexpected solutions. Hidden Figures speaks of the true story ever told of three brilliant African-American women who have made possible the conquest of space.
There
There are quite a few women working in the space program.
If John Glenn orbited around the Earth and Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon, he also went to NASA scientists who in the 1940s pencils, rulers and other crafted mathematical calculations that would allow rockets and astronauts to start to conquer space.
Whole damn country's counting.
Among them was a group of exceptionally talented African women who originally relegated to teach maths in the black public schools of the Deep South U.S.
Russians have a spy satellite lapping the planet, taking
Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Johnson were commissioned during the Second World War when the U.S. aerospace industry desperately needed experts with the right skills due to the shortage of male personnel. All of a sudden, to this brilliant maths and physics was the opportunity to get a job at their preparation. All of a sudden, to this brilliant maths and physics was the opportunity to get a job at their preparation. A call to which they replied, leaving their hometowns to move to Hampton. A contribution, though the laws on racial segregation forced them not to mix with white-collar workers, which proved to be decisive in achievement the goal American aspired to: knock the Soviet Union into space travel and bring a decisive victory in the Cold War. In the background of World War II, the struggle for civil rights and space travel, Hidden Figures follows the career of these women for nearly 30 years, during which they faced challenges, forged alliances and changed together to their own existence, also the future of their country. Reading the book, we have a free access to the thoughts of our protagonists. We managed to live every moment of their story in the most detailed manner possible, a dream that in the eyes of all was simply impossible. We can understand their anguish, their suffering in being judged by the skin color. Women with a talent out of ordinary but African American, something that was very difficult to accept for white men and especially NASA executives. It was hard to believe that black women worked for NASA, even if they remained in a department completely separate from those of whites. Even the bathroom. The blacks did not use the same white bath and vice versa. But certainly, this was not a reason to make them desert or stop believing in a better future. Looking at the film as opposite to what happened or is believed most of the time, we can live this story with the same intensity as in the book. The film has simply succeeded in transmitting the same emotion, telling us the story of these three African Americans who fought for the conquest of a dream. Catherine does her job better than she can, but is impossible by the lack of communication she has with her new colleagues, especially Chief Engineer Paul Stafford, who treat her with little respect. Meanwhile, Vivian refused to promote Dorothy as a supervisor of the computing sector, though she is forced to work in place of the mission supervisor with a reduced salary.
being the programmers on that IBM.
We've been reassigned. Leave your calculators, you won't need them where we're going.
Mary, she always
Instead, Mary would like to collaborate with the engineering department to help perfect the thermal shields of the experimental space capsule.
Let me ask you, if you were a white male, would you wish to be an engineer?
I wouldn't have to. I'd already be one. Your Honor, out of all the cases you're gonna hear today, which one is gonna matter 100 years from now? Which one is gonna make you the first?
During a Sunday barbecue, Catherine meets Jim Johnson, National Guard officer. Initially, Jim is misunderstood by questioning the mathematical abilities of women, but afterwards, he is able to forgive and establish a relationship of deep affection with her until Catherine, a widow and mother of 3 daughters, agrees to marry him.
How's that?
Over time, Catherine succeeds in gaining respect for colleagues by solving complex mathematical equations by impressing Harrison. When Catherine expresses the discomfort she has to run out of the building to use the only black bathroom center located more than a mile away, Harrison decides to abolish segregation in her center and personally drops the sign of unique bathroom reserved for blacks. Despite Paul's objections, Harrison allows Catherine to attend their private meetings, and she will prove precious to the mission, creating an elaborate equation for the returns of Glenn's space capsule.
Have a go at it?
Remembered by her own actions.
Dorothy, meanwhile, comes to know about the future installation of the IBM 1790 computer, which will lead to the unemployment of women who use the calculation under her supervision. Dorothy enters the computer room without permission and succeeds in activating the machine.
Dorothy Vaughn, sir.
She then goes to the public library to find out about computer programming, and despite being kicked out of her way, she manages to subtract the Fortran section of a book about Fortran programming. By studying the manual and informing her collaborators about IBM processes, Dorothy manages to be promoted and moves with them to supervise the computer, ultimately gaining respect from Vivian.
To our husbands' wives, to our babies' mothers.
Everybody smile.
American female engineer at NASA.
To be promoted to engineer, Mary is able to receive the permission to attend a white high school evening class to obtain a diploma necessary for promotion, and also to help create the John Glenn flight capsule.
Coupled with rising temperature on re-entry, the contact softens. We could consider another fastener other than the bolts.
Yes.
Despite the enormous contribution it has made to the Space Task Group, Catherine has been postponed to work as a calculator to be replaced by a fully operationally IBM computer. As a wedding and farewell gift, Harrison and his team give Catherine a pearl necklace, the only jewel in the building's dress code that she, with her poor salary, she would never have been able to afford. However, at the launch day, discrepancies in the calculation of the return coordinates formulated by IBM 1790 are reported. Glenn demands that Catherine performs the ultimate control, relying more on the calculation of a person than those of a machine. Catherine can confirm the coordinations on time, but after taking the data, he would not be allowed to attend the launch, except for Harrison's timely intervention, calling her in the control room to follow the launch together. After a successful run, Glenn's cap detects a heat shield problem. The mission control orders him to return after only the third orbit around the expected 7 Earth. Catherine controls the situation and suggests using the rear-mounted rockets attached to the shield to facilitate the risky return. Glenn follows the instructions and succeeds in returning to the Earth's atmosphere without burning, and the capsule lands in the Bahamas. Thanks to the success of Glenn's return, Catherine will continue to work for NASA and later will also calculate the trajectories of missions Apollo 11 and Apollo 13.